We're good, right? All right, it is 2:02 PM and I'm calling this meeting of the Pros Committee to order. We have a quorum. All of the members are present. Today is the first meeting of this 2025-2026 term. Welcome to Mark Landsman, to Gary Stevenson and Matt Jaffe joining the crew, and in just a few items we'll have a committee member communications, and I'll ask each of y'all to a little bit about yourself. And let's see, for the benefit of folks who in the room, we have Laura and Crosby Schwartz, FCEA tutor, that's Harry Farmer, a director farmer, Green Space Cambria Land Trust, that's Corinne Argano and Riley McFarland, with he'll be giving us the report, the presentation on the forest work that's going to be going on. So we'll line that up early on the agenda. Let's see. Chair report. Lots gone on the last month at the board level. So just a few of the highlights, things that you may want to look back as you have interest. At the last board meeting on the 13th, the Water Reclamation Facility Adaptive Management Plan quarterly monitoring was presented. A lot of good info there. Shannon and Jeff presented the community park ad hoc committee plan to the board. Great feedback. So that's on the agenda. The fire chief in his report, they've indicated that towards the end of March, there are going to be community meetings here at the Vets Hall, kind of inviting each community to come in for a bit of emergency planning. So that's coming soon, so stay tuned. The new fire protection committee got started this morning. I attended that meeting. They'll be meeting the same days we meet, 10:30, right here. Let's see what else. You already know that the standing committees, we got that lined up. The staff is working on a new ordinance for for the weed abatement standards. So it would be a municipal ordinance that would allow staff to issue administrative citations for violations that endanger the community in terms of fire safety. And as it has been, CCSD has a responsibility for the undeveloped parcels. Recent developments give the CCSD the ability to address developed parcels as well. So that's a step forward in fire safety. So that came to the committee this morning. It'll be interesting to see how that goes forward. And that'll be coming to the board soon. So stay tuned on that. And really interesting presentation at the last meeting from Astera. They've got satellite-based leak detection where they can somehow detect if there's leaks from water lines, so that's a new contract and a new service that the CCSD is going to be getting. What else did I want to share? I think that's I know April 5th, I understand that there's the 501c3s are organizing a nonprofit fair, a community fair. So that's something that I imagine we'll be interested in. With that, moving to agenda review. The topic 6E, presentation from Riley McFarland at I wanted to say ARC, First Consulting, I'm gonna move that up, it's, early as we can following our updates. With that and ad hoc committee reports, the only active ad hoc committee is the Community Park Planning Ad hoc, and that is on today's agenda, so no need for that update. So committee member communications, how about if we kind of go around the room and, meet and greet, a little bit of, I don't know, whatever you want to say, but maybe how I got to Cambria story and your connection and passion for parks, recreation, and open spaces, or anything.
So I'm Mark Landsman. It's great to be on the pros committee. I met Michael, well, first, I've been here 5 years full-time here in Cambria. I was coming up for 8 years total since 2017. Great community. I love this town immensely. And I've got the great opportunity to be able to serve back in parks, recreations, and outdoor services. So I met Michael through the FFRP Indigenous Plant Project on Fiscalini, probably back in October. And a great group of people that worked on that project. So I've collaborated with Michael a little bit on that effort. I don't know anybody else on this committee, but I look forward to working with each of you in depth over the next year or so. My background, I was a contract administrator for the public sector for Pasadena City College for 36 years. Retired from there in 2013. Took a year off and did some traveling at Cambria a couple of times during that period. So that was my introduction to Cambria. I'd go up to Frisco or Monterey and pass through Cambria, but never stop. So glad I did. And here I am today. I worked for the gas company for 5 years after I left PCC. I did that for 5 years and I retired from there in 2021 as a contract administrator. So I worked with Monrovia Youth Baseball. It's part of my background in terms of parks and recreation. I was on the board of directors for 20 years. We did a bunch of projects in terms of field maintenance and renovation, turf, scoreboards. Big one was the snack bar, big revenue flow for the district, at least for our youth baseball league anyway. And I just enjoy meeting other people and engaging in the community. That's a strong point of mine. I'm a relationship builder. I like to think of myself as that. Subject matter expert, so proclaimed. So it's just a matter of just getting involved with this at a greater level. Put my best foot forward and lending myself wherever I'm available to do so. So thank you, Michael. Thanks for the invitation. Thanks for the introduction, and I look forward to being on this committee.
Thank you.
I'm Gary Stevenson. We moved here about 20 years ago from Los Angeles. I'm a retired, kind of semi-retired TV producer. We raised our boys in this town. We have 2 sons. They both went K-12 in the system here, and one's graduated from college, and the other is about 3 minutes away. I was kind of the little league guy here in town for a while, and now I coach baseball at the high school. I was on the Youth Athletic Association for a while, so I'm still involved with the boosters, and happy to be on this committee.
I'm Matt Jaffe. My wife Becky and I moved here about 2.5 years ago. Took us a long time to find a house. We had sold our house and put everything in storage. But now we're on Lodge Hill and we love Cambria. I actually first came through here probably about 35 or 36 years ago. I was a senior writer at Sunset Magazine for about 20 years and came through Cambria while working on an article about sea otters. And I remember going to Leffingwell Landing. I remember not to look at otters, but walking up to the cemetery from this village. And over the years, I was back through Cambria any number of times. I did a lot of coverage of the Central Coast over those years. I'm still writing for a number of different publications, and this committee was kind of a natural for me. I grew up in Chicago. I was very much a city kid. We had a park at the end of our block that was kind of the center of our whole world. during my years as a journalist, I've done a lot of coverage of parks of all different kinds, from ones that are more focused on open space to some pretty innovative, parks that are, they're focused on recreation. So, my wife, Becky, is a docent with Friends of, the Elephant and Seal, and I have been kind of looking for something to be involved with, and when I saw this committee, I thought that's a natural for me, and, I hope to help out in any way I can and work with everybody.
To our good fortune, appreciate it. Yeah. Might as well,
Keep rolling?
yeah, keep
Okay,
rolling.
yeah,
because-
okay,
yeah.
yeah. Jeff Wilson, and I'm the secretary of Pros Committee. I've been on Pros Committee for, oh gosh, about a year and a half now, I think, October. So, yeah, and background, all pretty much everything in the private sector, publicly traded companies, mostly working in sustainability for the last 15 years, 20 years or so. Retired 3 years ago, got involved with Michael and Brian Morgan with FFRP and the Wednesday Weeders and trail teams, and so I came to know, the Pros Committee because I'm passionate about two pieces of it, the park, and that's why, really gravitated with Shannon onto the ad hoc committee for the park, which is really important to me. And the other is with open space and how we can advocate for, I guess, highest and best use for the open space in our community and around the community, that we all value so much about Cambria. And I came from Southern California and know that, there's one way to do things and there's another way to do things. And I escaped Southern California because, I guess, kind of a train wreck. So anyway, really good to be in the community and great to be on this committee with everybody. Look forward to working with you guys on what we have ahead of us.
And I'm Shannon Sutherland, born and raised in Cambria. My grandparents are buried here. My parents grew up here. My kids grew up here, and now my grandkids are growing up here. I've been involved in this for 30 years, trying to get fields, soccer and baseball fields built on the rodeo grounds property. So it's been a passion project of mine for a long time. Coached almost every sport. I use all the recreation in town all the time, so it's definitely something I'm very passionate about. And I currently work for an AI drone company. I'm the lead technical writer, so I also am kind of busy at work a lot, just as an FYI.
Fantastic. Thanks, Shannon. And going around, the table, working away here, we've got General Manager McElhaney, Confidential Administrative Assistant Haley Dodson, and they may be, tuning in and out, but they're here to help and report and, answer many questions.
I'm sure you're all familiar, we're working through some information hold items on our water reclamation facility that we're gonna be submitting here then the next day, so I'm not ignoring you, just multitasking.
Yeah, that ability to multitask is admirable. So, right on schedule, let's move to.
Wait, excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry, what did I miss?
You.
Your introduction.
Oh, right, my name's Michael Thomas, thank you. Yes.
You don't get out of it.
Forget it myself, been in Cambria 7 years and counting, just love this place, ended my career working in San Jose. And a career at Chevron in international oil and gas, in project management consulting. And as we were just looking up and down the coast, finding where we were gonna have our permanent happy home, we just kept coming back here looking for that 1-story house. Never found it, but we did find a house.
That's one.
And so absolutely love it here. Got involved right away in when I saw there was volunteer opportunities at Fiscal International Preserve, working with trails and the invasives. It wasn't long before Walt Andrus, who'd been leading it for 7 years, was looking for someone to sub in, so I took the lead on the Wednesday Weeders. eventually I got, talked into, I should volunteer for the Resources and Infrastructure Committee. Really interesting. I did that for a couple of years. I found that, I can't really do a good job for R&I committee if I don't attend the board meetings or listen in and see what's going on at the big picture. And then little by little, I ended up, getting into like, well, we got maybe talked into running for the board. Glad I did. Real opportunity to give back to this community. And when Pros Commission, which has been active for decades, trying to move things forward, transition to the Pros Committee. I volunteered. I mean, there's no game sport with a spherical object that I don't love, be it baseball, volleyball, soccer. Soccer probably is my favorite. Tennis, you name it. We're probably not going to have tennis courts, but and I thought, but I'm good with the frisbee. I haven't done disc golf, but I know I'm going to.
It's fun.
So yeah, I absolutely love the opportunity to bring, recreational opportunities to this community, and hopefully bring some of my project management skills to bear. And boy, we'll all need all the help we can get to fulfill this mission. Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So now let's dive into affiliated community group reports. And for the new crew, we over the last year figured out all of these groups that sort of interface have something to do with the scope that we care about. We invite them if they're if they have some content to share, or we need them. So going down the list, County Parks and Recreation. Still need to update the name on my notes. But not
It's Ron.
Yeah.
Ron Roach.
Yeah, Ron is not on. I know he was on last meeting and we couldn't get audio. Beautify Cambria, Claudia is not here. Forest Committee, we do have Crosby and Laura Schwartz. So let's ask to unmute. Okay, you're on, Crosby and or Laura.
This time it's Laura. Anyhow, thank you for having us. We went to the meeting this morning. We tried to participate. Very brief report. We are one of the places that is trying to keep the O back in prose, which is the open space. And the thing that I have to report on the most right now is we finally have our second edition of the Cambria Invasive Weed Guide. It is printed, picked up, sitting here. It's $15 donation. Anybody who would like one, is a perfect timing now that the weeds are coming up. We have at least there's 20 or 25 of the most invasive weeds in Cambria that should really be gone to keep our forest healthy. And we have a little special edition towards the back, which we cooperated with Friends of Fiscalini and our weed people. So anyhow, it's here, and thank you for having us. Oh, the way you get it is, you go to our website, Forest Committee, Cambria Forest Committee website.
Thank you, Laura. Questions, comments? On the list, with the Cambria Dog Park, Shelley is here.
Representative, we have been just buzzing along. Facilities is good at keeping our waters full and the chips full. And we have a couple benches, but we're hoping to purchase a few more benches in honor of the people that came before us. I don't know if we have Tim Roche or J&J Hellers, who had the dog park. And we hope that there's some way we can tap into the water in the bathrooms because it's so close. And right now they're having to use a tractor to tank water in and out. every time the tank is full, so it'd be really nice if there's water accessible, we could use that for water, dogs, drinking. That's it, thank you.
Thanks, Shelley. Water bills, yes. So next, green space, and Corinne is on. I'm gonna click the button.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hello, everybody. Welcome to all these new faces. Great to see some new faces on the committee. So Green Space, let's see, attended that meeting this morning also with Michael. Have a few concerns about the new ordinance, but I think we'll work through all of that. Green Space is focusing on Strawberry Canyon right now. We're going to be doing some trail work, some work in the riparian areas, waiting for some permitting to come through. Riley's going to give his presentation. We also are going to be part of a forest health management coastal Cal VTP project, which will do some fuel reduction and build a coastal forest health management plan. That is slated for approval from the Coastal Commission in August. And we're very excited about that, as I'm sure the whole community will be. We're gearing up for our big Earth Day celebration in April. It's going to be at the end of April. I'm sorry, Kitty, that it coincides with the flower show this year. And we also have our adventure auction coming up, and yeah, lots of other speaker series and educational stuff for the community. So we're continuing with that, and that's it from Green Space. Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Corinne. Questions, comments? And Mr. Sadell is not on for Rancho Marino. So Suzanne Fiedler, about the land glyphs.
Yes, thank you. So before I start on the very short presentation, I want to apologize to Michael because I barged in on a meeting that was already in process and just came right in and helped myself to a chair. So my apologies for that. I didn't know that you had a meeting.
I think everything's good.
Okay.
I think so, yeah.
So, anyway, so those of you who've been aware of my posts on Cambria Currents and next door probably are aware that I've been working at Lambton Cliffs, which is a county park, as you're well aware, and we've been removing the invasive ice plant. And so we've been working on that since mid-October. Took a little while to get to the adopt a park agreement arranged and approved by the county, but all that's working out rather well. We have a short list of activities to perform, although they're taking some time because all of this is volunteer based. We call the project Lambton Cliffs Restoration Project. We are not a nonprofit, we're strictly as grassroots as you can get. So the short story is that on Tuesday, I'd asked one of the rangers to come out and give me some advice on follow-up projects that we're going to do, because after the ice plant is removed, we have some cleanup to do in the park that the park has already said we could do. There's a lot of trimming and cleaning up that needs to be done, but one of the primary things. Can you hear it? So one of the things that Parks has agreed to is to have us help them with trail clearing. And right now, if you've been out there recently, you can see that the trails to the coast, to the benches along the bluff are completely overgrown. So it's a big job, and we were asking the best tools that could be used to do this clearing. And of course, everything is manual labor out there, and they are restricting us with using heavy equipment for lots of purpose reasons, safety for one, availability for the other. And since I'm relying so much on volunteers to do the work, we are somewhat limited in that view, in that way. So one of the things that came up with the ranger was that we could all bring out shovels and sort of start working away at the edges of the trails, or we could use some automated equipment. So my question is, what might be available that could help us with this project in terms of trail clearing One proposal that came up from the ranger was the use of something called the dingo. And we could get the work done very quickly if we had a piece of equipment with an experienced operator. And then, of course, we'd have to use those resources to help us, get the work done, which is outside of the scope of CCSD because this is now a county property. So I'm just throwing this out there to see if there's any suggestions or any way the pros committee can help with any tools that might be available, or any suggestions so that we can get this work finished. And so that's what I'm here to ask.
Great, yeah, it's, so Mr. Geary or Mr. McElhaney, do you want to comment? The question is, all right, with the last restoration, they're gonna do some trail work. Yeah, Shelley was advised, find somebody with a dingo. I mean, is this something that the CCSD could collaborate with? I know there's a lot of work on the ranch, but this is different. This is a county park.
I don't know, if we don't have a dingo anymore, do we?
Yes, we currently have a dingo that weighs about almost 1,200 pounds, or 1,200 pounds. If they're talking about equipment, they consider that equipment. Usually you can turn around and buy or rent a brush hog on the front, which we do not have. They go in and clear it. I mean, that's just ground cover. Everything else is all done by hand, from that point. As for our bandwidth to turn around and do that, we're so far behind the 8 ball on this. I'll be honest with you. I'd love to. I mean, it's a good thing for the CCSD to get our name intertwined with everything that, going on, but as for, getting us involved, it'd be kind of tight.
And I imagine there'd be some liability issues with, having non-CCSD personnel operating.
Absolutely, and that was one of my concern too, and he brought that up. I was actually surprised that he recommended the use of that type of equipment. Because the initial agreement on paper was that we would use only hand tools. But as time has gone on, the damage just keeps happening. And even in the few months that we've been working out there, I can see a lot of incursion of all kinds of plants onto the trails. I think they're dangerous actually at this point because they're mounding up, and we have a population that is in Marine Terrace. We don't want anyone hurt out there. So, all right, so the equipment then would be not feasible as far as CCSD is concerned then? or
Not
you
at
wanna-
this point.
Okay.
No. Like, there's gonna be, if there's work done by the volunteers and it would be just a simple haul off, David and I can talk about a coordination on picking things off to be hauled off in the dingo. But as far as using equipment for any outside of that would be difficult for us.
Okay.
But there's opportunities for us to help in terms of maybe hauling some stuff away for you.
Right.
Dingo.
You're bringing in new, crushed gravel or anything of that nature for the trails, if they want to go that route,
Right.
they're re-straightening it out.
Well, you can probably help with the hauling because we have hired a company from the Tascadero. And I'm watching our little budget, slip away, but so. Like I said, we're not a nonprofit, so we are somewhat limited, and that's on purpose. We did that.
What was the equipment you said they could rent?
You could rent a brush hog,
Brush hog?
which is an attachment that mounts onto a dingo.
Okay.
They do have them at rentals, their Hertz and US Rentals actually have dingoes or similar to a Bobcat, which is a smaller version. And this is reliable nature of a work that you're looking for.
Okay, I gotta think of that.
Yeah.
Good, thank you for that.
Maybe explore further. Fortunately, our general manager has one Monday a month. What's coming? When's the next your next meet the GM?
Oh, what day is that? 10th of March.
Yeah, I think so. But so that's another opportunity to maybe just kick ideas around.
Okay.
It's probably as far as we can go here, I think.
Yeah, you can rent DR motors. There's a couple different things that'll help you out in those categories.
All right, we'll explore that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Suzanne.
Maybe
Michael?
Yeah.
Maybe it's blinding after the obvious and you've already done this, but that almost sounds like there's maybe a way to collaborate with NCAC. Does NCAC, since they seem to be very critical in relationships with the county, that maybe NCAC might have some ideas about resources they would have to enable that? I don't know. Please.
I don't think NCAC has any resources at all of any kind.
No, but they could pressure the county to provide resources.
Maybe they,
Yeah.
yeah, fair enough. I mean,
I think if they said, probably just, we could probably do through Blake Fixler, you know, through Gibson's office, but that would put pressure on the parks, and I have a very good relationship with the parks. Right now, I've been working with them for a year and a half, so, I mean, I'll just keep asking questions and.
Yeah, so that's already connected with the rangers that are part of the Parks and Rec. And so, you know, NCAC, you know, they can advise Bruce Gibson, and Bruce can
Move it, yeah.
provide leverage towards you know, Parks and Rec,
Right,
you know,
right.
and yeah,
exactly.
maybe, but
Right.
sounds like
Yeah.
Suzanne's aware. Other thoughts? Okay, I'm gonna move on. Land Conservancy of San Francisco County. Daniel's not in attendance, so we will move on. Let's, Riley McFarland is here for the, you know, the last regular business agenda item. It's there just because I added it rather late. You know, it's a presentation from Resource Consulting on the forest health work that's planned on Fiscal Ranch Preserve. I'm sure he's familiar with. So Riley, I'm going to click the allow to talk button, see if that works, and let us know if you want to present something or if you just want to chat.
Hi all, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can you see me?
Not yet. And how do we?
Oh, I don't know if that's an option or not, but either way, I hope I'm not being too much of a buzzkill to say I don't have really a presentation for you all today, and we're actually planning to be down for the next meeting in March in person to be able to deliver some more of that info about oh, am I on here?
Yeah, we see the name Riley
that?
McFarland on the screen now.
Well, that's good enough for me. Yeah, I just appreciate the opportunity to meet you all today and be available for some questions and answers. So a little bit of background about myself. I'm a registered professional forester with ARC Forestry up here in Santa Cruz County, and we're the primary authors of an MOU that was presented today at the Fire Prevention Committee. And I don't know how many of you were there. I know some of you were. But we're also helping lead this forest health grant effort across 4 properties, Fiscalini Ranch being one of them, the other properties being Covell Ranch, Cambria Pines Ecological Reserve under CDFW's jurisdiction, and Hearst Ranch at the Pico Creek Monterey Pine Stand. So we have a pretty large hand in managing this project, and right now we're developing a timeline and implementation timeline to be able to get some work going this year. A few loose ends around some of the properties, but some of them are already permitted. So, you know, if you're familiar with the work that's already occurred at Covell Ranch, some of the work that's started on Hearst Ranch at San Simeon Point, those will probably continue first. Then that work will bleed over into Fiscalini Ranch and Cambria Pines Ecological Reserve. So yeah, with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that may come up. I don't see the memorandum of understanding on your agenda for this meeting, but I'm happy to present that or talk about that if there's any questions that are remaining from today's Fire Prevention Committee meeting. So yeah, just wanted to give myself and you guys an opportunity to meet me and ask any questions you may have.
Fantastic. And so you have March 20 on your calendar, but just in case we cancel that and rearrange, you know, if you might want to put Thursday, April 3rd 2 p.m., 2 to 4 p.m. on your calendar.
Okay.
That maybe what we land on, we haven't gotten there yet.
That's
But,
totally fine. Yeah, I saw that that you have something tentative at least for March 12th or 13th is how I understood it. But I could totally wait on communication and confirmation on that date for March. We'd be happy to come down, meet everyone in person, and provide more of a quote unquote presentation regarding some of the work we're proposing. So
awesome. And March 13th, that might be the board of directors, because this committee does not have a March 12th or 13th meeting. But we're connected. We have emails, so I'll keep you posted.
certainly, yeah. Yeah, appreciate the opportunity to be here. I can hang out, for a little longer. I just have to jump off for a 3 p.m. meeting today, unfortunately, but I'm happy to answer any specific questions or any other thoughts that are out there, or, just understanding that this project is still, very much in its developmental phases. So we're working pretty quickly at developing that timeline I talked about, just given our funding availability and us getting ahead of some seasonal windows. So
Fantastic. What questions does anybody have from the committee?
Oh,
Yeah,
for
Matt?
those of us who are new, could you just describe a little bit what the basics of the project would be?
sure. Yeah, so this would be what we call a landscape level forest health effort. And like I said, it's across those 4 properties under this grant that are listed in the memorandum of understanding. And basically what we're trying to achieve is, landscape level forest resiliency in the area. And we've had some great success on Covell Ranch, parts of the Hearst Ranch that are under the same Cal VTP permitting mechanism, and some other properties, including Rancho Marino, which is under its separate PSA. And sorry, as I throw around all these acronyms, basically what we're operating under is the California Vegetation Treatment Program, which is a programmatic environmental impact report that operates statewide in the state responsibility area. And under that programmatic environmental impact report, we file these things called PSAs, or project specific analyses, that basically define compliance with that larger environmental impact report. So I hope that makes sense. And that basically gives us the mobility to go conduct these forest health treatments, which may be low diameter thinning of trees, cleanup of down dead woody material, over accumulation of fuels in these stands that would otherwise be taken care of, under some low intensity frequent fire regimes that have been suppressed over the last 100 years or more. So we're coming in to basically conduct a level of manageable disturbance, I like to call it. I don't ever like to say I'm mimicking nature, but we're trying to facilitate a level of disturbance in these forested stands that would otherwise come in the form of low intensity fire, or some kind of rapid decomposition of this material. So in terms of Fiscalini, we walked that property with David and Kitty pretty recently, and I thought we had a very successful walk. But I think my biggest takeaway from that property was just understanding how diverse and dynamic those stands are in that property. It's really not a one size fits all for a stand, right? And so we're coming in ahead of time to kind of understand those dynamics, understand the differences across those stand levels, based on age class or structure in the stand, and trying to develop a treatment prescription around that meets our objectives, that operates under the realm of the environmental impact report, but also provides the community some prevention against wildfire, and facilitates, a more resilient stand for the future. So I hope that's not too technical of a way to talk about what we're doing, but there's definitely a lot of moving parts to this project. It's very large, and it's also being coupled with an even larger effort in the area across the coastal zone, which is the California Coastal Commission's jurisdiction. We're planning a larger PSA across potentially 90,000-ish acres. That would allow mobility to conduct more of these treatments across a greater landscape level. So it's all a lot of technical way to say that, you know, there's a lot of administrative and permitting mechanisms that we have to kind of find our way through before we're able to actually hit the ground and conduct these projects on a smaller scale that, you know, meets the objectives and the existing conditions of those stands. So I hope that helps.
That helps a lot, Riley, and I will say after hearing the story 5 or 6 times, it starts to sink in. Yeah, Jeff?
Yeah, right, this is Jeff Wilson and very familiar with the projects from some prior work. Question, my memory is a little bit hazy, but always a question of funding and where the money's coming from for these, and are you fairly confident the money will be there?
So that is a terrific question. Thanks for that, Jeff. Because that, you know, oftentimes that becomes the main driver of these projects is funding. And right now, under this project that I'm talking about, that includes Fiscalini Ranch and the 3 others, that's under a recent forest health grant that Fire Safe Council SLO received earlier this year. So that is good until I might butcher this, but I think it's good up until about 2030. So these grants last about 5 years. And then we're also coupling it with existing grants or funding sources that may already be under that agency, Fire Safe Council. Similarly, the Upper Salinas Los Tablas RCD, the Resource Conservation District, and Spencer Gordon, who is a project manager over there, they have some existing funds that they're trying to funnel into these projects as well before that grant runs out. So that one's actually going to run out in March of 2026. So it just, like I said, it becomes kind of a main driver of these projects. And, you know, when you do get funding, it's like you don't use it, you lose it, right? So we have a very tight timeline with some of these projects and not as tight of a timeline with others. So it's really comes down to us being able to schedule things efficiently, maximize funds where we can, you know, operate on existing permits and so forth. And that actually, to me, ties into the idea of this greater PSA across the 90,000 acres within the coastal zone of the RCD's jurisdiction, is because, you know, instead of us spending these grant funds on multiple permits, and going through the administrative hurdles that we need to go through to get these things permitted, we want to be able to maximize that mobility. So like, let's just go for that one permit, right, across the entire acreage. Let's give Fire Safe Council and RCD and CAL FIRE and whoever else the mobility to be able to conduct these projects and use those funds on the ground versus just funneling them into administrative and permitting efforts. So yeah, that's a very good question, and definitely always at the top of the list when it comes to planning these projects. Future funds are certainly not secured, and, you know, given some uncertainty around future funding for these types of projects, we just want to make sure we're maximizing the efficiency and use of these funds while we have them. So yeah, I hope that adds some context to that.
One last question, Riley, on the 90,000, the bigger PSA as it's envisioned. Would that or could that include CCSD owned beyond the Fiscalini, other owned?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a pretty broad extent right now, and the only voids in that area. So if I can describe it a little bit better. So Upper Salinas Los Tablas RCD has a jurisdiction, right? They're the RCD of this portion of the coastal zone, whereas the coastal RCD is the portion of the southern extent. So within Upper Salinas Los Tablas's jurisdiction, we used that boundary along with the coastal zone boundary and the county boundary to basically delineate this area. And the only voids we have in that proposed area are active Cal VTPs and federal lands. So that's our attempt to not, I use the term Swiss cheese the area too much. You know, we don't want to go and carve out a bunch of areas based on other circumstances, because, you know, when this permit is approved, whether it's a private landowner or a nonprofit or an agency like CCSD, they're able to use this permit or not. It definitely doesn't create precedent. It doesn't limit anything that those agencies or landowners are already doing on their properties. It just provides more opportunity and more tools in their toolbox to be able to conduct some level of forest health fuels reduction type treatments. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
That's great, and if you're able to come back at our next meeting, then, if you with our ability to attach the map and info to this, then we will we'll be able to visualize the words we hear, and hearing it again will certainly be useful. Public comment, Dennis?
Michael, thank you. Dennis Dujic here. Can you hear me okay, Riley?
Yeah, hi, Dennis.
So I've been working, I was working originally with the R&I committee, and now I'm hoping to bring that information here to this pros committee. But my question is, to what extent will your work be able to assist in mitigating the issues associated with eucalyptus and other invasives that are growing up on either side of Santa Rosa Creek as it passes through the Fiscalini Ranch and out to the ocean? Because those are exacerbating the flood risk issues as well as being fire issues.
Yeah, thanks for that question, Dennis. That's a really great question. So under this permitting mechanism, the CalVTP, typically we're obligated to come up with a set of treatment specifications, mostly related to native vegetation. So, whether it's Covell Ranch or Hearst Ranch or some of the other properties, we've typically operated under an 8-inch or below diameter threshold for live native vegetation. However, when it comes to invasive vegetation such as eucalyptus, there really is no diameter limit, and we're able to treat those stands of eucalyptus or other non-native vegetation in its entirety, theoretically. So that's one of those tools in the toolbox we have. Is this permit kind of provides us a lot of mobility to operate both within native vegetation and invasive vegetation, understanding that those pockets of eucalyptus and so forth are exacerbating fire risk as well as resource competition and so forth. So long story short, to answer your question, yes, we'll most definitely be able to treat eucalyptus stands, whether it's selective removal or whole removal, based on the existing site conditions. And we're actually in talks with some of those larger ranch owners, both David Fiscalini and some of the Taylor family, to be able to get on their property and kind of start looking at what's on the ground and developing that treatment prescription. So thanks for bringing that up.
That's more than a glimmer of hope. Thank you. Other questions and comments? How do I get out of here so I can see the
And yeah, I just want to say, ahead of March's meeting, and Michael, I'll wait for confirmation on that date. Feel free to share my contact information. I would definitely be interested to know what specific topics or questions folks might have, so we can tailor our presentation a little bit better to hopefully address some of those things. So yeah, take the time between now and the next March meeting to develop some of those topics or things you might be interested in. I'd be happy to address them in person.
Fantastic. I'll send a link to the committee on the Fire Protection Committee report from this morning. They can look at that and then come prepared. Fantastic.
Sounds great.
So moving on to, and thank you so much.
Yeah,
So,
thanks all. I'm gonna hop off, but yeah, look forward to seeing you all in person next month.
Great engagement. Thanks.
Thank you.
Public comment for things that are not on the agenda. Anyone here? Dennis?
Thank you. If I could, I'd like to follow up on the comment that I just made relative to the eucalyptus and other invasives. And specifically, I want to thank the folks who distributed how invasive plants are fueling California's wildfire crisis. And but I think the issue is twofold. As I mentioned, we have along the Santa Rosa Creek, which is again all part of the area that we've been talking about for so many different uses, a significant amount of downed trees, of invasives and other debris that are contributing to both fire hazard and flood hazard for the Santa Rosa Creek watershed. And all of Cambria is affected by these floods. So I just wanted to put out there that there is a process in place which I am working to develop with the county to expand our flood risk mitigation and management efforts, linking up with the county's departments for that. So I just want to put that out there. I really don't have a specific action item right now. I have presented this to the board at the strategic plan level so that we can begin to recognize that our efforts need to include flood risk mitigation and management. Back in 2009, there was a massive effort, $1 million plus went into diverting flows in the Santa Rosa Creek, just right there where it goes underneath Highway 1. But since 2009, except for the work that's been done by our esteemed folks here, thanks to David and others, prior to that, there was really no maintenance done. Pretty much CCSD has said, previous administrations have said, no, it's not our responsibility to deal with the Santa Rosa Creek. The reality is, it is. The people who hold title to the property are responsible for maintaining the creek. So I'm proposing that this committee needs to have as part of its purview, looking at how we're going to manage flood risk down the road along Santa Rosa Creek in the areas that are under the jurisdiction of CCSD.
Thank you, Mr. Duzick. Yeah, and FYI for the new members, Mr. Duzick has brought this up several times. A very important issue. I have talked with our general manager and with our legal counsel of is this within the purview of this committee? And the answer was a clear, distinctive no. This is not something that's within the purview of parks, recreation, open space. But it's that does not diminish the importance of the issue.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comments? Reports. So Mr. Geary, what have you got for facilities and resources?
Just what the guys have been out doing is checking out our CSD lots, getting prepared for the weed abatement. We just got to finishing up burn conservation easement there. We picked everything up 6 feet and got out all the dead stuff out of there. There's 2 days of chipping and cutting, a lot of hand work in there. We turned around and next to where the bathroom is going, we ended up pouring down the pad, base 3. It's roughly about 10, 12 feet wide, about 200 yards, all the way through. We ended up putting that on the ground for the project that's coming in. We've just been staying busy, just, with the weather, kind of put us on a scare. We ended up loading up half of our shop, got that all situated. We left 3 pieces of equipment in there due to the fact it is prone to be floodable. The previous time was 31 inches inside of the shop. So we had everything set up. We had stuff up on top of the attic, or above the crawl space and stuff of that nature. We were pretty prepared for that. Everything's going pretty good. We're just staying busy and just anticipating the grant that's coming through for the fire council for taking over the CCSD lots. So what we're doing, we're trying to take out some of the big stuff before they even get there. So that way we'll cut down on the cost long term. There's a couple areas that are actually, we have not been, as far as I know, on record, haven't been touched for about 3 to 5 years. We've been in there hauling out some stuff, some logs and trees. Due to the fact they're a little too big for our chipper. And we really don't want to leave them on the lots. Other than that, no, that's about it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Any questions from Mr. Geary? Jeff?
I know you've been hammered staff wise, David, how's that going?
As for staff wise, it'll be known. Oscar's leaving our department. He's transferred over to the water, the OIT, which is the operator in training.
Okay.
So we'll be back down to 2. It's gonna put a damper on a couple things, but I know we already have the recruitment out.
Okay.
So we're looking at, you know, future possibilities at that point. So, and, you know, this is retention, in that apartment. I know with some of the stuff that we've cut quite a few contracts out of, our deal. But at the same time, you know, we did hire a third person because they were known to only have two. So now we have three, but it's just hard to maintain them at this point, and it's not management. It's not, it's a little bit of the work, but it's mainly, you know, long-term, career wise. That's what it comes down to in our department. So.
Yeah, thanks. That's tough. And, yeah, just kudos to you for, yeah, you know, the generosity. I mean, losing Oscar, you know, going, but the fact that he's promoted from within, is just so great for the district. Tough for you. And so that's, Kitty?
I have a question, Dave. I've been out of town. Were you able to get down the pine tree that's threatening the venerable oak?
As of right now, they did it today.
Thank you.
So what they did, I had them just drop the tree. It's a split, it comes up at a main trunk, it splits out. It is dead fully. So they're turned around, they limbed it and they dispersed it in different areas. Because I know once the fire deal comes through, yeah, they'll be able to handle hauling those out. So that's, yeah, you had to backpack in there. We weren't able to bring any equipment in that area, so it's all done by hand.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Quick question. Are you releasing all of those wood chips for use on the trails in the ranch, or do you ever have an excess?
Okay. I got multiple piles. Right now on the ranch, the ones that are on the ranch, usually we try to keep them there because we don't like to bring in other, wood chips or other chippings basically and invade that area. We'd rather keep it pretty local. We do have some down at the bottom, which I have an agreement with one of the local companies where they turn around, they bring it, and they dump it for us, because that's what we're utilizing on the East Range trails. Scattering it. I know we're supposed to be starting that next week again, with some other things. But, if you're interested in something, I can have, somebody reach out to you.
We're gonna be collecting wood chips for Linden, probably within the next week or two. So
Okay.
Ken might end up with some too. Pardon? You should talk to Corinne. That's the right. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, a few months ago, a question came up about the signage and, you know, kind of preventing folks from, you know, getting down to the bluff. And I think we thought, you know, we considered putting that on the agenda, but I think that operational issue, but, you know, there was questions, if you want to update us.
So with that one there, went out there with, the members, pros and checked out with Kitty. She was out there. We walked the areas basically from the beginning of Windsor all the way down to the South Windsor to cover the whole bluff trail. What we're looking at is accessibility to the edges of the cliffs. There's quite a few areas, extensive. So what we ended up having a conversation was putting our standard posts in the ground. The 4 to 6 inch round posts that are treated and cutting them off and tapered tops. And running cable through them, drill holes in them, run cable like we usually do. One of the things I'm coming across, which everybody knows, you know, I'm into the whole logistics of numbers. When I sat there and looked at the cost of a single post at $27. So granted, we'll get 2 posts out of it. I went and looked around and I ended up finding some of the anchors, just like what the state uses, the steel bars for the eyelets. You know, they're bendable. We're able to rebend them. Because the whole thing with the wood, they'll rot out. 5 years, I mean, we're back out there, people kick them over, and then with the erosion and the squirrels that are out there. They dig around them, next thing you know, you got sloping, you got them draining off of the bluff. I mean, some of the areas were less than 6 feet from the bluff. With those steel bars, they have an anvil on it, or a little blade that spins into the ground. So therefore, if they ever break or anything else of that nature, we can dig them up halfway, cut them off, and do it that way and replace them if anything does occur. Cabling will still be the same thing going through them. And I know we were talking about updating some of the signs and stuff of that nature to deter people from going off the trails. There's a couple areas that we want to limit, and that's gonna be the main thing. You know, I know there's a bench down close to one of the bluffs down at the bottom. We're talking about putting them somewhat of a deterrent down at that end also. You can still see, it won't impede the view or anything else of that nature. That was one of the reasons too. I decided to look into the steel poles on those there.
I think there was some conversation too about maybe adding at both the north and the south entrance, a sign about stay on trail or stay on boardwalk.
Those signs frames are up. The
I'm
frames
sorry?
are- The frames for those signs are up.
Oh, okay.
We're just waiting for the signs to be.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Nice.
The newer ones that are out there, the trailheads. Yeah, there's new ones that are going in.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's a whole lot of things you're not
I
allowed to do. They're all listed there.
Okay.
Yeah, but stay on trails is already there on the old signs, and it will be no less prominent on the new signs.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just waiting for the center boards, I believe, to come in. That's what.
Yeah.
I think they're coming.
Great.
Yeah, so. Like Trenton was the very first one that came in. That's exactly what's going in there.
Okay.
So.
Any other questions in the room, for Mr. Geary? On Zoom? No, and, okay, so, Ms. Connolly, the, FFRP report.
Thank you. We're gonna be working with Riley, as he said, David and I went around with Riley through the forest and looked at all the different treatments and the history and. You think it's gonna be easy, but when you get to it, it's really a big patchwork of, challenges for those poor people. But the forest is gonna be great. It's gonna be wonderful to have all those years of forest treatment done, paid for by the state of California. The trails are in really good shape. They made it through this last rain intact, which was great, which is a testament to all these outflows that get done by our volunteers. There were some boards on the bluff trail, the north end of the bluff trail, in two different locations that had to be fixed. People were tripping on them. They were fixed. It's largely a matter of stainless steel screws wearing out. So it's more a matter of the screws wearing out than the boards wearing out. So our volunteers are gonna have a day when they crawl, crawl along the boardwalk and replace all the screws. They are lovely human beings. The weeding has begun with the soon-to-be annual KSBY Media Blitz. KSBY came out and interviewed our volunteers, which was absolutely fabulous, and hopefully we get some more volunteers out of that. It was very satisfying to hear those weeds crack when they were pulled out.
That'll be on the air Sunday at 5 or 6.
It's on YouTube right now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and I posted it on our website.
Awesome,
Yeah,
okay,
they all-
it's got it up already.
Y'all look right up there.
All right.
We're planning third Saturday work days, if it's not raining. If we're lucky, it'll be raining, we won't be able to do the third Saturday work days. But, there'll be whatever needs to be done on those days. So there's no way to predict it ahead of time, but Saturday mornings, the third Saturday of the month. As mentioned, our trailhead sign project is moving forward. We have the prototype, which is at Trenton. And now the frames are up on either end of the Marine Terrace Trail and at least on the North Bluff Trail. I don't know whether the frame is up on the South Bluff Trail. If anyone's seen it, you can just let me know. And I've been out of town for a week, so I'm
Wasn't
not quite
today.
sure.
Wasn't this morning.
Okay, yeah, because I wanted it moved like 6 inches, so I think Walt and I are gonna have to get together for that. And those are all being supported with private funds. What else? The Wildflower Show is coming up the last weekend in April. So, as Corinne said, it's a conflict with Earth Day. Some springs, all the holidays are at the same time. So there's only like a couple hours where you can have an event that's not somebody's holiday. So everything's gonna be the last weekend in April, but hopefully you'll have time to come to the Wildflower Show. It's gonna be held here in Betts Hall. And our thanks to CCSD for accommodating that, because moving it, we've been funding there. And people know where to find it if it's held here.
We have the dates of the weekend.
It's the last weekend in April.
I know, but I want to know what they.
I don't have my calendar.
My calendar.
26, 27, 28, one of those.
Great.
You know, it's one day off from last year, so I hate to tell you.
Starts,
Not the 30th.
the Saturday is the 26th.
Thank you.
Because it's only one day off from last year, so I'm pretty sure I'll give you last year's dates.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday?
It's just, for the public, it's Saturday and Sunday. You want to volunteer, let me know. It's a lot of fun. That's pretty much it.
That's it. Thank you, Kitty. Questions for Kitty? In the room? Comments on Zoom? That brings us to skate park project update. Julie Almaday is on the screen. I'm clicking the button. I hope it works, Julie. Julie, are you there? But while we're, Mr. McElhaney, while we're waiting for Ms. Amadei, you want to, give us your, view on the skate park project.
Yeah, we're still in a little bit of a status quo, so, for those that are new to the committee, we applied for a land conservation water fund grant in which the district was awarded and finished all of the federal review processes. This has taken over a year. It's a $600,000 matching grant to a total of 1.2 million. That's pretty much been completed on the CCSD side, and we're waiting for funding. There's some hiccups with the new administration coming in and shutting off federal funding and then flipping the switch back on. So that caused a little bit of delay there as far as the funding goes. We still don't know when that's going to occur. We were told in February, could hit in February, could hit in March. And then we will be funded for our half. The other half of the funds are coming from the Cambria Community Council through their fundraising efforts. The initial number for the estimate for the skate park was established back in 2022. And that was that 1.2 number. Inflation, cost of goods, services, labor has all skyrocketed, as we know, over the last 5 years. Some of our engineering estimates have come in anywhere between 1.2 and 1.3, $1.4 million to complete the project. So there's a funding gap in that matching funds needed to build the park. The community council is still working on fundraising, working with some contractors that are doing some in-kind donations to close some of those gaps. We recently had some unfortunate news in terms of where the skate park is going, which is across the street there. It doesn't have any power. So we need to install a meter box, have PG coming out doing a survey, and that could cost us anywhere between $60,000 to $120,000, which just upped the cost of the project even more. So our funding gap widened a little bit. And so right now, until that funding gap is closed, based on the MOU established with the district and with the Cambria Community Council, we're kind of in a holding pattern until some of those funds are raised to meet the 50-50 match to move forward with the project. So as far as the grant's concerned, we're still moving forward. We do have some preliminary estimates, some mock bids that put the project right around the 1.2 mark with a couple local contractors. But things like this are popping up, which are increasing the costs. So some of the good news is we hope to be funded from the grant side. Some of the bad news is that we still have a little bit of a funding gap to do that. The project itself, through the grant, we have a 3-year window that can be extended up to 5 to complete the project. So there is some room to wait. But as we know, when you wait, the cost of services team, you get that creep, that cost creep on you, which is problematic as well, because the closer we get to meeting our funding, to close that gap, you wait a year, then that gap seems to widen a little bit, so some good and bad news there, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
What's the power for?
So again,
The power that needs to be brought to the site, what's it going to
for
be?
the lighting around the skate park, because there will be some lighting, and then the restroom.
More questions?
Yeah, when you say the restroom, do you mean the restroom here at the dog park, or is there gonna be a restroom there as
No,
well?
there's actually gonna be a restroom, at the skate park.
Oh, there-
It's a part of the requirements for the county that there will be a restroom there.
And just checking to see if,
Michael, can you hear me?
we can. Okay, go ahead, Julie.
I'm so
you-
sorry. Had a little bit of an audio hiccup, but that was a great opportunity for our general manager to go through all the bullets. And I'm just gonna come at you with some continued momentum in regards to a couple other items on the park. As mentioned, obviously, we're working on identifying this funding gap, and part of that is the grant does allow for us to use in-kind contributions. So we've been aggressively pursuing that, and we've had some very successful in-kind contribution come towards the project, and we'll continue to work in that area and work closely, of course, with the district and Cambria Community Council. Couple things on calendar for the park. The last 3 years, we've participated in the Monster Skate Series, which is the largest skate series for our Central Coast. That will begin on April 5th, coincidentally the same day of the nonprofit event. So we're going to be a little stretched between two events, one taking place in Templeton and one, of course, taking place on the Pine Dorado grounds. But we do have intentions of being at the nonprofit event, so that the community can learn all that we continue to do and volunteer opportunities, and of course, the need for facilitating this funding gap. On top of that, we've got, well, I just want to identify to the public, and again, I know our general manager is talked about inflation and how that's taken place and continues to, but a reminder is this project started in the spring of 2020. So many of the students that began this process are well graduated from college at this point. So, you know, us being out there on April 5th, it's really critical. We want to make sure that the kids that, of course, are in our community and our tourists that would be using the infrastructure are staying in touch with the project and why it is so special, and the needs are there for continuing to take care of our students and kids within our community. So happy to answer any questions. I know that also what would be positive and exciting on top of the Monster Skate Series is just to know that we are out there actively talking about this project coming to our community and it being a permanent infrastructure. But again, happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks. Questions for Julie? All right, thank you, Julie. Always a pleasure. Okay, you know, the restroom, so the update, right? Delivery on schedule for Tuesday and being installed Wednesday morning, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Big win. Fingers crossed. We don't see any bad weather in the future. There's some electrical that may need to be done after it's dropped, so it won't be fully operational, but it'll be there. Our contractor is going to wrap up some of the electrical that needs to be hooked up and things that nature. There's been a lot of public comments as far as it applies to dark skies and lighting and things of that nature. The restroom lighting is dark sky compliant. We made those adjustments in the plans quite a while ago. We have talked to Jim. There's going to be a timer on there, but it will require lights in case district staff at some point has to go out there at night to fix a plumbing issue or anything like that. So it will have electricity. I know there's been some comments about solar tubes and no lights and things of that nature, but we did our due diligence to make sure it was dark sky compliant and the lights angled downwards with the timer that, you know, we'll shut off the lighting at night, the ability to turn it back on. But yeah, we're looking forward to getting that in and taking one of those to-do list items off our checklist.
Motion center lights, no?
I'm sorry,
Motion center lighting?
I don't think it's motion sensitive, but I could be wrong. I can double check.
Okay, well, so just FYI, and the board of directors actually has a special meeting called for next Wednesday, 8:30 AM. And, you know, public's welcome, you know, my invite is y'all come, you know, there's, you know, if you can, if you want, you know, like, it's gonna be a celebration, and our objective of maybe a year and a half ago was to bring the community park plan in for a landing about the time that goes in, and we're pretty close.
Definitely a shout out to David for all his team's hard work to get the site ready for the big equipment to come, so that was really great of him.
So it brings us to consent agenda. And this is an interesting one. Three of you, you know, will say, shucks, I wasn't at that last meeting. And but as members of the committee, you know, you've had, you know, if you chose the opportunity to, you know, watch the meeting on Zoom. But the question is, are there any corrections to the minutes of the our last road committee meeting?
I was actually there.
Yeah, exactly, you were, of
I
course.
wasn't a committee member.
But you were there.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll motion.
All right, Shannon, second.
Second.
All right, Mr. Jeff, seconds. I'll just say, at this point, take the easy vote. Are there any objections within the committee? So unanimous approval, the consent agenda is approved. Which brings us to regular business. Have I missed anything?
No.
Okay. Rolling on, the idea here is, I know when I started on the R&I committee, it's like, so how does this work? Right, and so I thought, you know, I've got a few slides just to set the stage for, you know, kind of how this all works. And let's see if I can share. I think it's working, and we will see. And it's always great to work on someone else's computer with a mouse you're not familiar with. Okay, there we go. So objectives, just so we know what our role is and how we work together to accomplish that. I'll talk about, you know, a bit of background, history, Brown Act, standing committee bylaws, the rules of order, and that's who we are. Thank you. Make it bigger.
Yeah, get all the boxes.
Fantastic. Thank you. I needed that.
So we can almost
Thank
read
you.
it.
Yeah, and I'll even make it a little bigger. Okay,
We can read it.
now see it. Okay, excellent. Scroll down, you know, big picture, like there's this, you know, for reference, you know, when you want to read a little more, where it's blue, those are hyperlinks. So it can take you to, you know, LAFCO's website, the Local Area Formation Commission, which when, you know, I mean, over the state of California, there are, you know, there are thousands of districts, and they do all sorts of combinations of services. You know, ours, we've got water, wastewater, parks and rec, fire protection, so a little bit of street lighting, and solid waste collection. I probably missed one or two, but
There's water, fire, street lighting, parks, rec,
Yeah.
space, refuse.
yeah. Yeah, so those are the powers assigned to this district by the Local Area Formation Commission. And there's the boundaries within which we were authorized to do that. And the, you know, administration of the Betts Hall is one of those special powers that's in there. You know, Not sure whether it's in Parks and Rec or if it's a separate thing, but it's also included. And this is one of those where, Q&A, informal, anybody just shout out, like, hey, you know. And this is simply a screenshot from, so LAFCO, every so often does an update, and this is a screenshot of that. You know, it talks about the district. Yeah, 2,900 acres, 4.6 square miles. Yeah, of that 2,900 acres, you know, I guess 430 acres is fiscally ranch preserve, something like that.
Michael?
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed is, I never even thought about this, but it just jumped out at me as I looked at the active powers. I mean, and it specifically relates to us, open space is not anywhere included
Yes,
in
you're right.
active powers. So and I'm curious, two questions. One is, I mean, is that intentional, and does it leave an area that is maybe open to some clarity as to what the active powers are for the district?
Good question. I think intentional, no, yeah, definitional perhaps. An organization like LAFCO, when they think parks and recreation, hiking, you know, there's many communities have regional parks, you know, trails, hiking, that are the way the open spaces are managed. So I'm pretty sure that from LAFCO's perspective, open spaces is an aspect of parks and recreation. I think, you know, is that
Pretty accurate, you know, we're unique in the fact that, you know, we have the Fiscalini Ranch, and that's one of our largest open spaces. And then the rest of our district properties are essentially our parcels, our lots, our undeveloped parcels, land conserved lots and things of that nature. And I'm not sure that would fall in LAFCO's eyes as Parks and Rec, more of district properties that we own.
Right, so, yeah, and I don't know how much this touches on under F&R, maybe more broadly is the open space responsibilities, if you will, or is more under, I'm not calling you out, David,
No,
but.
you're good.
Right, so, you know, whether it's Fern Canyon or other properties, open space that CCSD has, that somebody has purview over more
when
specifically.
that bubble's in the air, David's gonna catch it.
Yeah,
That's it, with that one there, I mean, we work a lot with the county. The county is the one that drives me pretty hard on that one there.
yeah, which it's, sorry, I don't want to get, but it's, as you know, I mean, some of it is, it's good to be clear on this stuff. And NCAC, I don't know if you saw the article by Jeff Quasney in, I think it was Cambria CA today about the land use. I don't know if it's commission or committee or
Land
something
use
like.
committee, as a subcommittee of NCAC, yes.
Right. And so there was some conversation there about, you know, NCA's purview relative to land use and space within Cambria. So, and I don't want to get this into a, you know, conversation, but I was a little bit concerned about how much influence or responsibility does NCAC have for some of these land use and even open space issues that we have in Cambria? Okay, Tony, I know you speak from much experience, so.
No, they merely can make recommendations.
Some
They have
influence,
no
yes.
no enforcement whatsoever.
No.
It's just recommendations.
So, can you pause a second?
Yeah.
So NCAC, North Coast Advisory Council, is one of the numerous advisory councils, and it's formed as an advisory body to the county. So once a month, they have meetings. Last night, you know, third Wednesdays, and there's when county planning has some within CCSD jurisdiction, or within the North Coast boundaries, which are much broader.
Sure.
The the land use committee, Jeff Quasney and Christina Galloway and a couple others, they look at that and they ask, is it consistent with the North Coast Area Plan? That's a hundreds plus page document. And do we want to ask the county any restrictions, any modifications? So that comes to the NCAC, and they, they'll either vote yes or no to those restrictions that they're going to ask the county to make. And then when that goes, then Bruce Gibson, this is kind of like his committee, when that goes to the Board of Supervisors, there's 5 of them. And more often than not, whatever NCAC asks for, it just hits the floor. And that's, well, sorry, because there's 5 supervisors that vote. So yeah, as Tony's point is, the influence is limited there, but it's not zero. But anyway, back to what we're doing. I'm gonna steer this back to, so what are we here to do?
Well, Michael, that's open space. So that's my question, is it's not included here, and it appears there is some conflict with NCAC or potential conflict. My question is, if open space is not clearly indicated in here, then are we saying that it's really with CCSD and primarily David? Is that right? And facilities and resources. So I'm trying to really understand where open space fits here. Okay, that's my question.
I mean, I would add on to that, not to disparage David at all, but facilities and resources is not listed on LAFCO.
Right. Yeah, they're not listing the departments, and it turns out that, water department manages the water. Facilities and resources manages several of the assigned powers. Facilities and resources manages lighting, parks.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not arguing, like, I know they do tons. But if we're talking about semantics, which we are, because the word open space is not in, then with LAFCO here,
Okay.
then basically, how could that bite us in the butt?
Yeah, I'm perplexed to how this is a problem or how to answer the question. I'm perplexed. Matt, you want to
So,
jump in?
so for the NCAC, like it was being discussed, they're kind of the watchdogs of the North Coast Area Plan. And so Director Thomas was saying, they make recommendations and, we kind of went toe to toe with the NCAC about the sidewalk on the skate park. And we got a waiver from the county and they didn't necessarily like it because they want the county to start doing improvements within our boundaries, yet that was a significant barrier to us being able to fund the skate park. And so we were able to get a waiver in. We had conversations with NCAC and we eventually, got them to make that recommendation in our favor. But as far as them managing open spaces or really having a say in it, I don't think they necessarily have a say in it as much as when it comes to minor use permits, when it comes to development. So when these minor use permits come in for a remodel and things like that, that's when it shoots to the land use committee within NCAC. And they'll make recommendations on whether or not that conforms to the North Coast Area Plan. As far as our open spaces go, those are just district owned properties that short of Fern Canyon and the ranch, then it's just lots that we've taken on from the county or abandoned lots that somehow we picked up. Haley and I were going back in paperwork for quite a while and found that we took on 55 land conservancy lots, so that is theoretically open space because there's nothing developed on it. But yeah, that falls under the purview of David and I and basically how we manage. And I'll be honest, at the bare minimum, we just want to weed abate it.
Yeah, and I guess that's the question is, it gets back to the goal that we had established relative to open space and beyond, that for the properties, there is a broader, deeper set of objectives for open space within CCSD's purview than beyond weed abatement. Not just weed abatement.
Yeah, I don't know if that's, not that I disagree, but I don't necessarily agree in terms of what the mission the board has set forward about those open spaces. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not sure where you want to go with the open space.
It's not me. I mean, Michael said it's a goal. It's a strategic goal for the CCSD is management of open, it's a goal for management of open space. We had that as one of our goals for 2024. And a committee of me, David, Dave Pearson, Jim, Michael Berkey, all the different departments that in certain pieces of open space have infrastructure, wastewater, water, Fern Canyon, for example. And I don't know if Laura is still on, but I know Laura and Crosby, who are very much mentioned even this meeting, right, supportive of open space and the O and pros. So it's, you know, I don't want to beat this up, but I still feel like we have, given the conversation, we are here right now today to talk about what we do here. It's not clear to me what we're doing, what our role is in terms of open space and building that out to the CCSD strategic plan. That's my question. And I don't need an answer now. I'm just putting it out there because I believe it's something that we need to explore and develop more fully here. Because I sort of got the idea that that was coming to us to execute on behalf of the CCSD board.
I think it's a good discussion that we will have on March 3rd. Some of the terms that you mentioned in terms of building out open space.
Building out, I don't mean building it out, I mean building out a plan. An integrated plan across the different infrastructure functions of our community. So
Well,
transportation.
here's my best shot at putting, you know, a paragraph around this.
Yeah.
The OS in open spaces, right? The, you know, the remit and the objectives of Parks, Recreation and Open Spaces Committee is to look for opportunities within this, you know, jurisdictional boundary for people to have parks, people to have recreation and open spaces where the CCSD owns property, which is undeveloped parcels. That is the open space that is on the strategic plan. The strategic plan has an objective of developing management plans for how we take care of those parcels. And that is this, you know, the item that pros will have input into. That's it. And of course, there's no intent to build anything out. And we have had a lot of conversations about, well, there may be some of these parcels in neighborhoods where maybe there could be a friends of the.
Right, adoptive part,
Yeah.
adoptive, right.
And that's to be discussed in the future. That's about, yeah,
We have had this discussion before.
Yeah.
Many times.
yeah.
So, I mean, it does, like, I'm not saying we should solve it now either, but
Right, I'm not.
it is something that maybe we continue to discuss.
Right.
Because it is kind of something that's a little bit funky
Mhm.
with us.
It is.
And it would be nice to get a little bit better grasp on it, so.
I mean, we could try to refine it at the strategic planning meeting. I know this won't be a popular position, and David and I hate our lots. Because of, I mean, we hate them.
It's work
It is
and it costs money. Yeah.
work and money and
Yeah.
resources. So like, part of me wants to say, can we just focus on the ranch, which is open space, and maybe Fern Canyon, and leave those for now until we find a funding mechanism to do things like that. Because when I hear pocket parks, no matter how many times I hear volunteers and community support, David's phone's gonna ring off the hook because there's a tree down, or, you know, whatever it is, it will be a time suck. I just have no doubt about it. You know, you can create 4 pocket parks within these lots, and it will take David's time, which he doesn't have. I mean, we just had Lambton Cliffs in here asking for a dingo, and it's already no. You know, so to add any more responsibilities on his plate in terms of the open parcels, not that it can't be a discussion, but that scares me to death. Just period. You know, our focus, I mean, thank goodness we do have the grants coming in to help with the management of the weed abatement for some of the CCSD parcels. But when that goes away, we're back to square one. And I mean, David, back me up. We're scared, you know,
Yeah.
because it's hard enough just to manage them to not be a fire.
And like, you're saying, where does it fall underneath more or less my position? Which, you know, like, the whole open spaces. You know,
Yeah.
doing stuff of that nature. I know with my facilities and resource, it doesn't even touch that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about open spaces and stuff of that nature, the weed abatement things. It's a whole different, basically title in that point, but I think with the district, what they ended up doing, they just crammed it all under with the pros. Said, hey, you know, part of the facilities and resources, I don't know if it's the parks or how it got put underneath there. But yeah, like in my title, there's nothing in there. You know, except for, you know, maintaining them and stuff, but yeah, like your question, you know, like where's the O? Who has control over the O? This is like, well, it's got a point, you know, and that's something that's kind of curious. But at the same time, I know part of the responsibility on our end, you know, it's to take care of the community.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yes, I brought it up for that very reason, and that if we don't, like Jim, this has been an issue ever since I've been here. And Laura and Crosby can speak to that for much longer than that. We can either let it sit confused and unclear, or in this year, we can try to make some effort to clarify in some way, shape, or form. I'm not asking for pocket parks and all this other. All I'm saying is, can we once and for all kind of get our arms, at least maybe just strategically, around open space and how we want to handle it? And I'm not saying we have to devote David's time or any of the staff's time, but let's think about it and come to an agreement and have a plan and say, okay, we can't do this now. I get that. I totally get that.
Jeff, it's already in the strategic plan. We haven't got to it yet. Yes, and
You mean, is it gonna
It's
be
in-
in
it's
this
in the
upcoming
strategic-
strategic plan?
it's in the CCSD strategic plan
Yeah,
to develop open space management plans. We haven't done it yet. So yes, it's still confusing. It's still a mess.
Yeah, I mean, we can, again, we're setting, the
Yes,
goals
I will push to get to it.
okay.
and we'll discuss it. I know Dave and I want to talk a little bit about it, you know, at the March 3rd
Yeah.
meeting. But again, the board drives you guys through the strategic plan and what, much like this community park master plan. And so
Right.
maybe the discussion comes up on the 3rd to be more specific on your role in that open
Yeah.
space piece.
That's it. That's it.
So a lot of energy in open space. Okay, moving right along. Right. Just touching base, like, what are the, like, where do we get our compass, right? What is our map, you know, CCSD strategic plan, the mission statement, highlight a couple few words, but the CCSD provides parks, recreation, and open space in a safe, cost-effective, and environmentally sensitive manner. That's the mission. And we've already heard some gaps. Like we know there's lots of gaps in it, and that's why we're here, to get stuff working better. So, I'm not trying to pour cold water on the energy. It's like, yeah, we've got to get the stuff moving. In the strategic plan, the core values, right? Pay attention to these. This is what the board, what the district says. This is these are the values that drive everything that the district says or does. I don't know if anyone's perfect, and so where you see gaps between what's written and what's happening, call that out. And but this is the intent. And just for those on Zoom, apologies, but you know, I can't concurrently see comments. So when I'm done with this, then I'll take questions if there are any comments from Zoom participants. In the strategic plan, this is the one core area where, you know, the strategic goal of that drives facilities and resources is to manage and provide stewardship of district assets, parks, recreation, open space. And I thought it'd be interesting to do just a bit of history, like what's, you know, where have we been? Go back to 1976, CCSD was formed. the Pros Commission formed in 1992, 33 years ago. Yeah, right, where were you, Shannon, in 1992? You were right here, part of it, right?
Raising money, like,
Yeah, 94. The Parks and Recreation Open Space, the Pros Master Plan was developed through community effort. In 2000, major milestone, the East-West Ranch, which was slated for development after over a century of ranching, slated for development, and somehow this community pulled together and preserved it. And over the years, that was, the 2003, the conservation easement was granted to, here's a test question, NC Swap, North Coast.
Small wilderness area preservation.
You got it, yeah, you covered that back then, didn't you? Yeah.
I remembered it though.
Yeah. 2009, there was an environmental impact report. 2008, there's a little like title change. That's when FFRP took over the management of the conservation easement. 2009, there was a park plan. 2012, coastal development permit for that community park plan essentially for the entire preserve, east side and west side. And in there, you read, okay, where's the specifics on the community park? And you'll get to a paragraph that basically says, community park contents to be defined in the future. 2014, 2017, the first phase of construction brought the dog park, which had been, on the further in on Main Street. They did grading, drainage, grading, swales, the parking lot, and the dog park. And that's what we've gotten so far. Pros Commission transitioned to the Pros Committee 2 years ago, and phase 2 underway to be completed essentially next week. Phase 2 being a restroom. And so, so if you're wondering why we're calling the next phase of community park development phase 3, like, well, the restrooms phase 2, so the next phase must be phase 3. A bit of history, and so the bylaws, what we do, standing committees are advisory to the board, right? I heard a bit of grousing about NCAC, they're advisory, they have no teeth, right? Whenever we vote, we make a decision, our decisions will be what to recommend to the board of directors. We're not going to approve a plan, we'll approve for a plan to go to the board for the board for adoption. And 1.2 is important, it's like, although you read it and it's pretty broad, each standing committee is intended to address issues delegated to it or assigned to it by the board, or issues within the purview of each committee. In other words, if the board says, Pros Committee, please do this, yeah, we do that. If at the same time, within our jurisdictional boundaries, we're looking at what are the parks, recreational, and open spaces needs. And that can come in at any point, at any time. So top down, bottoms up, community in. What we do, okay, so here's we assess existing resources. And by the way, this is screenshots from the bylaws. I didn't, put a copy of the standing committee bylaws in the agenda packet because it seems that they've been revised about every board meeting for the last several months, and they're going to be revised again. So once they land, I will include that in the next agenda packet after they seem to land and stop changing. Minor changes, you know, mostly accommodating the new Fire Protection Committee. So we work with General Manager McElhaney and Facilities Resources Manager David Aguirre to basically, what do you need? How can we help you bring input from the community to bear? In what ways do you need that? We recommend plans of action. And we facilitate communication. In other words, we'll get input and boy, over the last few months, there's been a lot of communication facilitated, right? For the community park. And I put this in here. This is from the 31-year-old Pro's master plan as the mission statement. It still rings pretty true. Dedicated to the acquisition, development, and maintenance of a comprehensive park system, recreational facilities, open spaces, and trails. Bylaws, and we're about to run out of time. One of the bylaws says the committees meet for 2 hours, unless the I guess 4/5 of the committee chooses to extend. So at 4:00 p.m., I'll either cut this to a clean stop, or if someone moves to extend the meeting for some period of time, we'll do that. But we have, you know, yeah, as chair, yeah, I'm appointed by the board. I don't vote on anything. Right, I help. I kind of help drive the bus. And the vice chair, the vice chair, Shannon, has been in this role for I think a year, and I work with Shannon on agenda development. If I can't make a meeting and the meeting continues, Shannon chairs the meeting. The secretary produces the minutes. Next topic on the agenda is electing officers, and given the time, I should probably just do that now. So currently, Shannon Sutherland is vice chair, doing a great job. I hope she continues and is elected to continue that role. We'll see what happens. Likewise, Jeff Wilson has been secretary and does a great job keeping track of things. If I were one of the new guys, the last thing I would want to do is jump into one of those roles until I watch a while. But anyway, so do we have nominations for and now at this point, really, I need to be able to see whose hands are up.
You want a little extra work?
Okay, all right. So, thank you, Ely. Thank you, Matt. All right, so do I have a nomination for vice chair? Jeff.
I nominate Shannon Sutherland.
Do I have a second? A second by Mr. Jaffe, and are there any other nominations?
You mean, for vice chair?
Vice chair, yeah.
Okay, that's what I was hoping. I guess in order of voting, yeah, Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
Mr. Jaffe. Aye. Mr. Landsman.
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
And Mrs. Sutherland.
Aye.
All right, ayes have it. Unanimous consent. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Shannon.
I know.
Yeah. And again, the co-leadership has been really great. So I appreciate the help. And yeah, sometimes I feel like how how did I ever work? Because, right, there's just no time, but, Shannon still is working. And I remember those days working, 12, 14 hours a day. So thank you. Secretary, we have, nominations for the role of secretary.
I'll nominate Jeff.
I decline.
Okay, so we have,
I decline.
Wow.
I'm doing a year and a half.
all right,
You've done a great job.
It's a,
so we
I
have,
would say it's a challenge, but I'm ready to get it off to. I came in as the new member, tackled it, so.
yeah, okay, fair enough, fair enough. And you've done a great job. So now let's discuss, maybe someone volunteers, it obviously can't be Shannon, it can't be me. So, and, it's like, I love the old days. I would do this in meetings to see where it lands and find out, but obviously, the pen doesn't win.
What exactly are the duties? I mean,
Ah.
other than like seeing Jeff.
So I can,
Summarize.
yeah, as you've seen, I'm scribbling down all kinds of notes. So you have to reference who's in the meeting, both publicly and on Zoom, staff that's here, staff that's on Zoom, and then follow the agenda and indicate the time at which agenda items take place, summarize the discussions that take place by whom. It doesn't have to be and shouldn't be in like ridiculous detail, but it should summarize the key points of the agenda items that are discussed. And then when I do my minutes, draft minutes, I send them to Michael, who then reviews them and makes any changes, and then they're submitted to Haley for as a final. And then we, of course, have a consent agenda and determine whether there are any final changes that need to be made. So, yeah, that's it.
Well, I guess will throw my hat in the ring. I have a question. Would it be okay to record the meeting on my phone?
The meeting is recorded.
Meeting is recorded.
Okay, I figured as much, but yes.
Yeah.
So you can always go back to the meeting, as need be, just clarify anything that you may have missed.
When I was secretary, I just watched the meeting.
Yeah.
Way easier.
Yeah, and just to clarify,
Streamline it.
at the, since we're at the end of the meeting, are you good to knock these out for this meeting? Or do you
Yeah,
want them to-
yeah, yeah, and I'm happy. I mean, if Matt is
Yeah,
so elected, I'm happy to spend any time with you
Yeah.
if you need to help go through it. It's pretty straightforward. I'll just, for full transparency, the challenge with this job is staying connected to the conversation
That's what I was concerned about.
while also documenting it, and that requires some balancing of attention. But that's just what happens, but that's when you can go back to the recording.
Okay.
But in real time, sometimes the challenge to stay 100% in tune with what's going on in the meeting. That's, I will say, really the only sort of difficult part is.
Okay.
Can we vote on it?
so
We have a
need
motion.
second.
or-
So,
We need a
so
motion.
we have a volunteer, so I
Right.
think, we would need someone to say, I move, I guess.
I moved that Matt be secretary.
All right.
That works.
And, Gary seconds?
Yeah.
Okay, so, Jeff?
Aye.
All right, Gary?
Aye.
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 I,
Aye. Aye, so that's 5 ayes, thank you so much.
Congratulations.
I was close to a day there.
And Jeff, that's a good call. That's a good call on your part. That's smart. And so that's a great
Yeah.
And yeah, and more on the process, we'll get you sorted.
Mhm.
So 3:55, do y'all want to bring it in for a landing or carry on?
Landing.
landing.
All right, so
I would suggest though, if we go to future agenda items,
Yes.
we can cover the goals real quick.
yes, and before I get there, I need to ask either Crosby or Laura Schwartz has had their hand raised while I was what you want to call it, had the presentation on it. So I need to take that comment.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
Yeah, hey, I'll be really quick. Part of the comment was directed to our manager and to David, so I won't continue on with much.
They've left.
Okay, just read your mission statement of 1994 and it shows exactly what we're supposed to be doing with and we don't call them vacant lots, they're environmental parcels and they're not to be hated. They are something that's very, well, look at the transcript. The thing is, they are to be adored. We have a memorandum of understanding with the Land Conservancy to take them. It's part of the mitigation for the potential EWS, for the build-out reduction plan. It's much more complicated than just, oh, there's a little work to take care of them. It's part of this community. It's part of mitigation. It's part of our history. It goes back to 1984, and Bruce Gibson was the head of the Land Conservancy when it came into effect. And if you'd like for us to explain it again, we will. It's very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and when we were interviewing Mr. McElhaney, I don't think I recall hearing him say that he hated our open space parcels.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, but no.
On this particular tape, when he spoke, he started talking about taking care of them. Look at the tape carefully.
Oh, no, absolutely, he said that. What I just said, Laura, is that when we were interviewing, we did not hear that.
No, what you heard from him when you were
that.
interviewing him is that his only environmental experience is that he uses less paper. That's his qualifications.
So I definitely appreciate that comment. Yeah, that I took that to heart. Okay, so future agenda items, yeah, we're not gonna have time in 2 minutes to cover the goals.
No, I don't want to. I want to do a future agenda item that
Okay.
we revisit our 2024 goals and update them for 2025.
Okay,
At which time we can assess everything and assign a DRI for each one of our goals and start
Mhm.
fresh.
yeah.
With the DRI.
In other words,
Direct responsible individual.
yeah, and
And you guys all have in the agenda packet, so you can kind of see what we were working with previously.
absolutely. So that's and that's the remainder of today's agenda. That's 6C, and we will do that. We will do that next month. Oh yeah, on future dates. How are we? Oh, by the way, you received an invite for March 12th? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
I can't go.
I'll be there.
What is it?
So this is the Brown Act training, and we want everyone there. Understand. Yeah, this is not long notice. Now, schedule conflicts for March 20th and April 17. Are we all good for Thursday, April 3rd? For our next meeting, instead of March 20, it would be on April 3rd. Is everybody good with that? Are any conflicts?
No.
This is a lot easier to do face to face than the serial. Okay, so I will be doing that. That's not a thing we vote on, but I'll manage that. So what I'll be doing is I will kill the March 20 and April 17 meeting, and schedule what we call a special meeting on Thursday, April 3rd at the usual time, 2:00 p.m. The only difference with the special meeting, there's no public comment on things that are not on the agenda. And I think with that, you don't say it's Saturday Night Live, you say it's 4:01 p.m. and this meeting of the Pros Committee is adjourned. So, and President Laura, thanks for hanging in, and I appreciate your comment.
I was hoping you were going to continue on.
I stopped recording.
I understand.
Stop the recording.
I just spent much more time for